I don't know about you, but I find prayer really difficult. I've been a Christian now for 41 years, and I've been a priest for 32 years, and I still feel like a beginner in prayer. I'm not sure I'm any better now than I was when I first became a Christian, to be honest. I get quite discouraged when I pray for things and they don't get answered. Sometimes, do you find this? It feels a little bit like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling and they're never quite reaching the throne room of God. But anyway, that's how it feels for me often. And if that's how it feels for you, then today I just want to give you a couple of very, very simple tips that I've begun engaging with in my own prayer life that might help you as well. And as well as these two tips, I want to tell you the reason behind why I'm finding them so effective, and the reason behind them might not be exactly what you think. So I hope you'll find it helpful anyway. And the first thing is this. They're very simple. The first thing is this. Don't just pray for the big things in life. Pray for small things as well. Very often when we pray, we are tempted to pray for big things. Lord, I pray for world peace, or on a more personal level maybe, Lord, I pray that my friend will be healed of cancer, or Lord, I pray for revival in the church. Now, these are all good things to pray for, of course they are, but they are massive asks, aren't they? And if they are the only type of thing we're praying for, if we only ever pray for really big things, then we're rarely going to see any answer to them. Because big things, God is God, and he can answer any prayer, of course he can. But if we just focus on the big things in life, the big world events, the big church events, then we will rarely see answers to those. So I think there's real merit in praying for small things as well. Praying for things like, Lord, help me to get some lunch today, or Lord, help me to have a good journey to work today, or Lord, when I get to the supermarket, I pray that there'll be a parking space for me. Now, here's the thing about praying for little things like that. If you do get some lunch today, or if you do have a good journey to work, or if you do get a parking space when you get to the supermarket, now maybe that is from God, or maybe it's not from God. Maybe it just happened anyway. That's not really the point. The point is, with small prayers, is that they help us to increase in gratitude. That we are more thankful for the small things in our lives. Small prayers change our hearts to a large extent. So whether or not it was God who gave you lunch today, when you receive it, and because you prayed for it, you will be more thankful for it. If you've had a good journey to work, again, that may have been because of God, it may not have been because of God, but you will be grateful for it. If you get to the supermarket and you have a parking space, then God may have got that parking space for you, he may not have done, but you will be more grateful for it. So praying for small things helps us developing gratitude and be more thankful for things in life. And that change of heart, I think, is a really good thing to help us to grow spiritually. Also, I think to say that, if we do pray for the small things in life and they happen, then we begin to see miracles in the small things. Everything in life becomes a little mini miracle. And that's quite a beautiful way, I think, to see the world. Secondly, I would say be specific when you pray. You could pray to God and you could say, Lord, help me to have a good day. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that somebody's going to give you a really nice present? Does it mean you're going to bump into a friend who you haven't seen for a very long time? Does it mean you're going to get a pay rise at work? What does Lord, give me a good day look like? And how would you measure it? How would you know whether or not God has answered that prayer or not? Unless you're specific, you don't know if God has answered your prayer. Now, I think I struggled with this for quite a long time because I kind of felt I was being a bit rude to God. I was being a bit arrogant by saying, you know, Lord, help me get this number of subscribers on my YouTube channel by such and such a time, or Lord, you know, help me to achieve this particular goal by this particular date. And it felt a bit rude. It felt a bit arrogant of me to do it. But I got beyond that and realized that actually God does want us to be specific when we pray. And the Bible passage that helped me with that was from Mark chapter 10, verses 46 to 52, when Jesus has an encounter with a blind man called Bartimaeus. And Bartimaeus comes to Jesus, and Jesus asks him a really profound question. Jesus says to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" Now, isn't that a profound question? What do you want me to do for you? He was asking Bartimaeus to be specific, and Bartimaeus said, "Lord, I want to receive my sight." And Jesus healed him, and he received his sight. Now, Bartimaeus, because he'd been specific in what he'd requested, knew when Jesus had answered his prayer. He was either going to leave Jesus that day blind still, or he was going to leave Jesus that day with his sight restored. So there was something about the specificity. Is that the right word? Can't even say it anyway. There was something about him being specific in his prayer that helped him to know when Jesus had answered him. And so I think that's not a bad spiritual discipline. Jesus can always say no, can't he? You know, you can ask for things and God can always say no. It doesn't, you know, it's not the end of the world. So we can pray specifically, and if it's according to God's will, then of course he will give that to us. There was a Pentecostal pastor, I think he's still alive, I think he's still practicing, in South Korea called Paul Yonggi Cho. I think he goes by the name of David Yonggi Cho now, I'm not sure, or it might be the other way around. But anyway, there was a Pentecostal pastor, and he wrote a book many years ago called Revival, and it was a very influential book on me when I was a new Christian as a teenager. And he talks about praying specifically, and he talks about an occasion when he was very young as a Christian pastor and very poor, and he prayed every day for God to give him a bike and a desk. And he wanted the bike so he could go around and visit his parishioners. He wanted a desk so he could sit there and write his sermons. And for months he never got a desk or a bike. And he was praying about it, and he says that he felt God say to him one day, "Well, you haven't told me what type of desk you want, and you haven't told me what type of bike you want." So Yonggi Cho then prayed specifically. He wanted a mahogany desk, and he wanted a chair to go with it on swivel wheels, he said, to make him feel important so he could swivel around his office. And he wanted he asked for a very specific German make of bike. And within a week of praying specifically, God had provided the desk, the chair, and the bike. So it's a lovely story, and it taught me a great lesson, and maybe you'll find it a useful story too, that actually if we pray specifically for stuff, it makes us more bold in our prayers. You know, if we just ask for world peace, well, you know, that's not particularly specific and it's not particularly bold, is it? But actually stepping out in faith and saying, Lord, you know, I want this type of a chair, I want this type of a desk, I want this type of a bike, I want this type of response to my YouTube channel or whatever, then, you know, God can always say no, but he might just say yes. So it helps us to pray boldly. And again, it makes us more grateful when we receive the answers to our prayers. So we need to remember, I think, with prayer, that prayer fundamentally is not just about asking God for things. It's actually about building a relationship with him, a relationship of love, a friendship, if you like, where we can talk to God as a friend, and we can lay our lives before him and talk to him about anything that's on our hearts, but also ask him for anything as well. It is about a relationship. But fundamentally, by embracing these two different forms of prayer, by praying for small things and by praying specifically, I think what it does is it changes our heart and it fills our heart with gratitude. And that's the major impact. When we pray for things, yes, of course, that's partly about discerning God's will and partly about impacting what goes on in the world and what goes on in our lives. But it's also about our own spiritual growth as well. And anything that changes our hearts and fills our hearts with gratitude cannot be a bad thing. So I would say to you, pray small as well as big, but pray small and pray specifically. And if you do that, I am sure that you will begin to see miracles everywhere in your life and in the world. And your gratitude towards God will increase so much for all the small things that you have and all the small things that you see. I would say that when you pray small, life looks more beautiful. When you pray specifically, life looks more beautiful. And when life looks beautiful, it's not a bad place to be, is it? Thanks for being with me today. I hope that's been helpful, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care. Bye.